At Autocar India, setting records comes to us naturally. And this time we are not setting one, but 3 records. Welcome to the fastest lap, where we take an SUV to all 3 circuits of India to set the fastest lap. And for that we have this monster of an SUV, the fabulous Audi RS Q8. So stay tuned for the action. The RS Q8 holds the lap record for an SUV at the Nurburgring with a shattering time of 7 minutes 42.253 seconds. And it's this lap record on the legendary Nordschleife that inspired us to do the same back home. But for that we needed a fast driver, someone who can make this high-riding 2.4-ton beast dance like a ballerina. For this job, we've got none other than Aditya Patel, one of India's foremost racers. Aditya, you've got a big job at hand. You are familiar with Audi. You've set a record with us, the top speed run, which still stands. Hopefully this will also stand for a long time. But setting a lap record on all 3 circuits and something like an SUV, something I'm sure you've never done before. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a challenge that I'm really looking forward to. The RS Q8 with 800 Newton meters of torque, 600 horsepower, it's got all the right ingredients to be able to set a proper lap time. Let's not forget the Quattro system as well. So 3 circuits, they're 3 completely different circuits altogether. We've got Chennai here where we are, which is a bit of a medium speed circuit but also extremely challenging. Coimbatore is almost Mickey Mouse. It's a bit slow, but the new layout is something that a lot of people haven't really been to. And then we've got the Buddh, which is fast. It's a proper Formula 1 circuit. So this car does have some work to do, and I have a lot of work to do, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, that's it. 3 circuits, all different in layout. That's what we are going to. But that's not all. We will be driving to each and every one of the circuits, and that's our job. We'll come to that later. But for now, let's get right into the thick of the action. Setting a lap record requires a lot of preparation. The conditions need to be just right, and this means attacking the circuit soon after dawn when the ambient temperature and the track temperature are as low as possible. Yes, cars run much faster in cooler air. Tire pressures are critical too, and this is where seconds can be gained. Constantly adjusting pressures to compensate for the heat buildup is the name of the game, and an art Aditya knows well. The RS Q8 has multiple drive modes, and for the track it was the Extreme RS2 mode and all parameters set to dynamic that Aditya was happy with. And of course, traction control was firmly switched off. Officials from the FMSC are there on hand to see that there are no technical infringements and that the RS Q8 is to showroom spec. An official from the India Book of Records too watches on. Aditya has one shot at setting the fastest lap, after which tyre performance drops off. So let's ride with him for this record-setting lap. MMRT is a track Aditya has grown up on, and he knows every inch of it. The good thing with an SUV is that you don't have to worry about the curbs or the grass, and Aditya gains vital time taking a tighter apex, but is careful to stay within track limits. The RS Q8 is physics-defying. Achieving lap times a car this high or so heavy has no business to do. But it's all possible thanks to tech like rear-wheel steering and active anti-roll bars that give Aditya the confidence to push in a way that even he can't believe. minute 52.911 seconds. Wow, now that's a time that won't be beaten by another SUV in a hurry.
Oh, what a lap, what a lap. I want to shake your hand, but let's keep the protocol. Fantastic, what a lap.
What a lap.
Into the 152s, that's what our V-Box said. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely. I don't think I expected anything like that. We discussed last week as well.
Yeah.
We wanted to break the 2-minute barrier. I think we shattered it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk us through the lap, Aditya.
For starters, I didn't believe it myself. As I got to the end of the lap and I looked at the clock, I said, this can't be true because it's so quick. But yeah, the lap was pretty good if you ask me. I went into turn 1, car got a little bit loose and I even managed to put my 2 wheels off the track on the exit, but I was completely on the limit there. But I was quite surprised with how nimble it was through turn 2, turn 3 and through the S's after that was just absolutely flat out. And turn 4 as well, you know, it was just braked, went in and the car did exactly what I wanted it to do.
Tell me, I mean, you know, where was it getting a little challenging? Was it through the constant radius corners like the D where, you know, all that mass is then loaded on the outside wheel, because this thing chews tires in that condition?
Yeah, it's got the weight, you know, so the long corners like turn 5 and then into the long D, once you've got the car loaded, the tires can only do so much. So the tires are now trying to keep the car on the track. So I could really hear it screaming and shouting. But I had to play around a little bit with the throttle to try and get the rear out to compensate for the load on the front. But it worked out quite well. The car was super responsive to what I wanted it to do, so I could transfer the load between the front and the back and then still keep the tires in reasonable form for the last sector of the lap. I could feel it starting to go away from me, but I think we had just about enough to finish the lap.
And I mean, you know, let's not forget, this is an SUV. I mean, this has got a high center of gravity. It's not supposed to be doing these things. I mean, these are the times that have on our track day honestly has, you know, beaten cars like, you know, even the Huracan.
Yeah, it's blisteringly fast. I couldn't, like I said, we were thinking that if we come under the 2-minute barrier, would be quick by itself. But a 152 it's beyond me how this car can be that quick, because you've got so much weight charging into corners. You're approaching corners at close to 200 kilometers per hour. Hitting the brakes, have to slow it down. I could actually brake as late as I normally would, even in a supercar like the Huracan, like you said. It's just unbelievable how good this car is.
So one circuit down and 2 more to go. We packed the RS Q8 for the 500-kilometer drive to Coimbatore. Yes, we are actually driving the RS Q8 to every circuit. We are not putting it on a flatbed like a namby-pamby supercar. We'll tell you how it performs on Indian highways, how comfy it is on this 3,500-kilometer road trip. Now, after Aditya's record-setting lap, I expected the RS Q8 to be a very high-strung, hard-sprung, edgy beast. But on the highway, it felt shockingly docile. It was surprisingly supple and gobbled kilometers without any fuss. I really enjoyed the rather relaxed drive to Coimbatore with a couple of coffee breaks along the way. Tanked up with XP 100 or Indian Oil's 100 octane fuel, the RS Q8 is all set to lap Kari in a hurry.
So welcome to the Kari Speedway in Coimbatore. This is the second circuit we are at after setting the fastest lap at the MMRT. And of course, with me is Aditya Patel, who is all set to put another record, well, at least set the fastest lap over here. Aditya, welcome. A new circuit actually. I think it's even a new circuit for you altogether. So I think that's also going to be a bit of a challenge as opposed to even handling a 600 horsepower car on something that's quite Mickey Mouse in that sense.
Yeah, it is a new circuit, lots of tight corners. I drove around a little bit in the Q2 and now I'm actually looking forward to putting that big car on this circuit to see what it can do.
Before Aditya hits the track, the RS Q8 needs to be properly prepped. Rahul puts on the data logging timing equipment, checks the tire pressures, and the FMSE officials are here too to make sure the RS Q8 has no mods. I thought the RS Q8 would be completely out of its comfort zone on this Mickey Mouse circuit with its tight corners. But Aditya just grabbed it by the scruff of its neck and flung it around, bouncing off the curbs to set an unbelievably quick time.
One minute 13.691 seconds. That is officially the fastest lap in an SUV on the Kari Speedway. Congratulations, Aditya. That's quite a cracker of a time when you put it in perspective that some of the race cars are even slower over here. But a big SUV on a small track, not the ideal combination. Talk us through the flying lap.
A 1 minute 13.69 is a fast lap for this car. We have looked into what times others have done so far, so we know it's quick. It's going to be a tough one to beat, that's for sure. The lap was good, didn't put a foot wrong. It was a bit hot during the day, but that's fine, you know, it's part and parcel of driving around a track. Super engaging for a car like this though. With the active anti-roll bars, you can actually feel it working when you're going into these tight corners, getting the car turned and then getting on the gas. It works so well. The four-wheel steering as well through the really tight corners at the back because you're at a slower speed, gets the car rotated really quickly. Absolutely enjoyed it. I mean, it's the first time I'm driving something this fast and this big on this circuit, and you could feel it. I felt myself approaching corners so quick, I actually had to hold on tight to the steering wheel.
So that's 2 circuits down, 2 fastest laps set in an SUV, and now for the big daddy, which is the BIC circuit. Of course, we're going to be driving all the way there just to show how good this car is on the road as well. But it's not going to be me. I'm going to be handing it over to Rahul. I'm going to be catching the plane home. Rahul is going to be behind the wheel driving, which is going to be a total of 3,000 kilometers by the time we reach Greater Noida. So do join us for that journey. Aditya, I'm going to be seeing you next in BIC.
Looking forward to it.
A cross-country drive in a 600 HP SUV? Oh yes, the RS Q8 is an Autobahn cruiser, but what would it be like on an Indian road trip? I'll have a lot of time to find out. Our route to the BIC will take us from Coimbatore to Bengaluru to Mumbai to Udaipur and finally to Greater Noida. That's over 3,000 kilometers to be covered in 4 days.
The RS Q8 is in another league altogether. I'm having to clock 900 kilometers on an average in a day, and I can't think of a better car to do it in. It's got a phenomenal blend of power and luxury that keeps you energized all the time. And frankly, when we're done at BIC, if I have to drive it back to Mumbai, I'll happily do so.
The RS Q8 might be our track star, but it's a brilliant highway car too. My worries on the 23-inch rims proved unfounded. It's crazy how calm the 4-litre twin-turbo V8 can feel, and the sheer sense of comfort is simply superb. I'd have loved to have gone express delivery mode, but taking it easy is the best approach on Indian roads. And an easy cruise into Greater Noida it was. Over to Hormaz and Aditya.
So we are finally here at the Buddh International Circuit at the BIC. This is the circuit everyone wants to set a lap record on. This is a Formula One circuit. This is really the real badge of honor for all times, for all fastest laps. But the thing is, we've come here after driving over 3,500 kilometers all the way from Chennai to Coimbatore and over here. Now that's a story in itself. But right now the focus is on setting the fastest lap at the BIC. But unfortunately, Mother Nature doesn't want us to. So we are just waiting for conditions to dry up. There's been a downpour overnight. The track is still wet. And until he gets out, I've got Aditya with me. Aditya, let's just talk about the conditions straight away. You know the circuit well, but the track's a bit damp. Sun's not out yet, which is good. So really waiting for things to dry up.
Yeah, it's not ideal. There was this thunderstorm last night, and when I looked out of the window, I just put my hand on my head and thought, oh no, this is not what we need right now. We've come all the way from Chennai to Coimbatore to here. But now we're waiting for the track to dry out. What's good is the conditions are great. The sun isn't too sharp. We've got some cloud cover. Looks like it may take a little while for it to dry out, but when it does, I think we can do a proper time.
After a quick service the day before for a new set of pads, fresh tires and an oil change, the RS Q8 is ready for the BIC. Now the FMSAI observer for this circuit even weighs the car to confirm that it's not been lightened. Yes, this is a bone stock RS Q8 that you can go to a showroom and buy. In complete contrast to the Kari circuit, the BIC is the other extreme, a full-fledged Formula One circuit with long straights and long corners that play to the RS Q8's strengths. In fact, the RS Q8 feels right at home here. With the track completely dry, Aditya exits the pits to make a bit of history. On a wide track with so much runoff area, it's always tempting to overdrive the car. But Aditya keeps it smooth and tidy, deftly balancing the big and heavy Audi in a bid to lose as little time as possible.
So smiles all around, a huge sense of relief when we look at the time at the back, 2:16.767. Now that is the fastest lap in an SUV. I think the way it started off, clearly there was Mother Nature conspiring against us, but finally we got it in the bag. Aditya, day didn't quite start out the way we expected, but I think that's not too shabby a time.
Yeah, I think it's a good time. It's not going to be so easy to beat. But like you said, the day didn't start off really well, and it took a long time for the water to kind of dry up. And by the time we got on the circuit, it was pretty warm already. And but even that being said, whew, what a lap it was! It was really enjoyable.
So tell me, why don't you just take us through the lap? Let's start down the start-finish straight into turn 1. Where were you braking? What speeds were you doing? Just give us a flying lap.
So going down into turn 1, you're doing well over 200 kilometers per hour. I think you're doing about 212, something like that. And then you've got to brake hard down to 90 kilometers per hour into the first corner. So you don't have too much time to do it. The braking point is at about 150 meters before turn 1. Turn 2 is fairly straightforward. It's just a slow hairpin bend. But what's important about turn 3 on top of the hill is that you need to get on the gas as early as possible, because you have to remember you have that long straight where you pick up a lot of speed going into turn 4, which again is a really tight corner. It's almost a proper hairpin bend.
And top speed down the side about 240 clicks?
About 240 kilometers per hour, and then slowing this massive machine down to 90 just isn't easy, because you've got to again brake as late as possible and then slow it down through the gears to get it down to 90 and get the car turned in. But it just did everything the way I wanted it to. In a lot of cases when you drive a road car around a circuit, you're always a bit worried about how late you can brake, but this thing gave me so much confidence to brake at the latest possible point. So that's when it gets a bit tricky, because you've got a big car, you've got a lot of weight transfer going on, and you have to remember there's no aero, unlike in a lot of other supercars. So going down into turn 5, you're carrying a fair bit of speed in, but you're also transferring a lot of weight from the rear to the front, so it's really not so easy to keep the car steady through that corner. But nonetheless, the 4-wheel steering, the Quattro, really helps it through that section into 6, into 7, and 8 and 9, and then you get into the Parabolica, which is a long corner. And you can imagine, with all this weight loaded on the front left tire, which is here, it's not so easy for the car to keep the car on the track. And I did get pretty close to the outside curb where it gets quite slippery, but still managed to get it into the exit of the Parabolica, got the turn out, and then downhill towards 11 and 12, which again is a very tricky corner. Lots of weight going into the front wheels, the rear getting light, super tricky, but again great fun through that sequence of corners. And then you come to the last corner as you come down the hill, which again is a very hard braking corner. And interestingly, by this point of the lap, the brakes of course were quite hot, so it didn't slow down as well as I expected it to. Still managed to get it slowed down, turned into the corner, and on the gas as early as possible. Across the line, 2:16.767.
Could Aditya have gone faster? Possibly, if the rain hadn't delayed us and ambient temperature was a bit cooler. But for now, I can confidently say that it will be quite a while before someone in an SUV beats this time. But what does Audi think of this mega achievement? Let's hear it from the boss himself, Balbir Singh Dillon, the brand head of Audi India.
So Balbir, in the RS Q8 on the BIC, well, driving a little slower than Aditya. I don't think you're going for the fastest lap. But clearly, do you enjoy driving on circuits?
Absolutely. Every opportunity that I get, I love to drive on the circuit, and it always gives you goosebumps. But at the same time, you always feel proud about what you're doing and the love that you have for the cars.
And just while we are on the BIC, how important is, let's say, circuits for your customer base? Because obviously, given our general driving conditions, this is one place you can really let your hair down, explore your car to the max.
So it is important because it lets every person or a customer who owns a car to give him the feeling, the capability of the vehicle that he owns or he drives on a daily basis. Because on a routine, you cannot have the car pushed to the limits. and this is what you achieve in the circuits. So it is very important on the circuits, also sometimes off the circuits when we take the cars off roads, and also on a routine basis on customers anyway drive the cars.
Right. An SUV on a circuit, I think this must be a first. I don't think any of your SUV customers come to a circuit. But now maybe after these lap times, they might think twice, especially the RS Q8 customers or future RS SUVs.
Yes, I completely agree with you. It's very important that the customer enjoy these cars on both the platforms, whether it is normal road or also on the circuits. Fortunately, we have 3 circuits across the country, and it's possible for the customers to take a spin on the circuits. And we also continue, like we have been doing in the past, to organize also such events where customers do get possibilities to drive their own cars, also our cars, on the circuits.
Well, great, Barbie. That's great. Thanks for this quick tour of the BIC.
Yes, thank you so much for organizing this. We are really happy about what we could achieve last few weeks in all the 3 circuits. And this, I think, is going to stay for long as far as the record goes.
Absolutely. And if it's not, we'll be back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So that's it then. 3 circuits, 3 fastest laps in the bag with a 3,500 kilometer road trip in between. So all this in a week's work in a car that shocked us not just with its blistering speed, but with its everyday usability too.